Goes to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery on the Lions. Former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened?
America is football. Football is
Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass. For the moment in time, I don't give a damn. Oh my God!
No!
You loved it.
30 to 27.
No!
Chiefs win. Chiefs
No!
win 30 to 20.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Only Football Podcast, our first episode post 2024 real NFL football. Last night, we got to see the Chicago Bears and the Texans, kind of. The game didn't end. As soon as I said I'm not live streaming this game anymore, the NFL decided it wasn't even worth it to play it. I walked away, and the game never came back on until it was canceled. But I think there was some things that we could look at from the time that we did see, including things like Brett Rippon, who had a pretty solid game. And of course, we're going to talk about some players that were pretty dominant. If you were on the stream, then you already know who I'm talking about. Perhaps you weren't, and I'll fill you in. All right, so we're going to look at the type of players that played. No, there was no Caleb Williams. No, there was no CJ Stroud. And there was a question if CJ Stroud should be out there or not. And it's not really a question. No, he shouldn't be out there. He already showed us what he can do. However, on the other side of the field, there's a rookie quarterback with a ton of expectations that said himself that he wanted to go play. And the Bears decided, nah, you're going to sit this one out. Not only did he sit it out, he didn't dress. He was doing interviews on the sideline. All the things that Sean Payton hates was going on. Now, I do think that Caleb Williams is such a high-caliber player. This is one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. If you do play him and something goes wrong, it's like, what was he doing inside of the Hall of Fame game? And there was some other players that I would have expected that wouldn't be in this game. Wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, maybe tight end number 2. A lot of backups, a lot of second stringers were in this game. Now, it's not uncommon to see that the Hall of Fame game is only playing third string, fourth string practice squad players. But we saw John Mitchie the third. We saw Xavier Hutchinson. Shout out to Xavier Hutchinson for you guys. I'm going to just keep on saying it. My brother played high school football with his older brother. This is just crazy. But he had 19 snaps. He ran 12 routes, 4 targets, 1 carry. Cade Stover, who they drafted, the tight end they drafted out of Ohio State, had 19 snaps and ran 10 routes. Davis Mills had 25 snaps and 1 carry. And I thought from what I saw, I'm going to give you the things that stood out to me. A little more news about the game. Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert led the Chicago Bears rushing attack. Both running backs are competing for playing time this season. Of course, they bring in DeAndre Swift, who is going to be that 3-down bell cow that they want. And he's somebody that didn't really get the opportunity to be that last year with all the talent Philadelphia had at the running back position. I think that was a big desire for the Bears and Swift. So, look, whoever it is, Khalil Herbert, Roschon Johnson, I think they're just coming in to be a relief for DeAndre Swift, and then Swift comes back in the game. However, that position is still really important, and it's important to figure out who it's going to be Of course, the Bears will have all three of these running backs on their active roster come September. John Mitchell III leads the Houston Texans wide receiver rotation. The Texans rested their top 5 receivers, which is a pretty good damn set of receivers. Mitchie had a 4-man rotation of players competing for 1 or 2 roster spots. So you did still have that natural competition of players playing for a roster spot on the final 52-man roster. Let's take a little look at Chicago Bears snap counts. And before I do, I want to say, how good was Colin Johnson last night? Colin Johnson, an ex-Giant receiver who makes his way over to the Bears, had historical games in college. Comes from I would say Hall of Famer. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. His father was a defensive back Hall of Famer. Comes from a good bloodline. His sister, I believe she's in track and field at college. His brother played at, I believe it was Texas with him. And he was somebody that never really popped. He spent some time with the Jags, spent some time with the Giants, 2 places where, let's be real, in the last couple of years, it's kind of easy to go unnoticed. But even last year he had with the Bears, I didn't notice him at all. And it's kind of, it could be great timing for him, but it could be poor timing because they bring in Keenan Allen, they draft Rome Odunze, they still have DJ Moore, who they just paid. Where does Colin Johnson fit in? He had 8 snaps. He ran 3 routes, right? But that can't be right. He had way more than that. This is off of PFF. 8 snaps, 3 routes run. I think he had almost 3 touchdowns. There's no way. There's no way. This is wrong. I'm going to show you guys what I see right now, just so you know what I'm seeing. Look at this. Colin Johnson, he's the one on the top. It's 8 snaps, 3 routes run, and 0 targets. This is 2024. What am I missing? What am I missing? All right, that's annoying. Let's just move on. Colin Johnson went off. The 50-50 balls, he used his body, his length. He's the tallest wide receiver in the NFL. Another thing that I didn't know at 6'6". And he was high pointing the footballs. He was making hard contested catches and surviving the ground. The ball not moving. Strong hands. He looked really, really good. Multiple touchdowns. Tyler Scott. I mean, now I feel like a phony reading these snaps and routes because if that one's wrong, who knows how accurate these are. But Tyler Scott was in the game. Tyson Bagent was in the game. Roshan Johnson was in the game, and Khalil Herbert. This must be the first quarter only. No, it says the whole game. All right, so honestly, Bill's comment right here, I couldn't agree with more. This was the best Hall of Fame game I can remember. They're usually hot garbage, and they are. And this one actually had movement. The football was constantly moving down the field, and the Texans had a quick 17 points, but then there was kind of a delay in their offense, and then the Bears picked it up and ended up taking the lead. And I thought that this was going to be a really good game. I was looking forward to watching the rest of it in my bedroom. But the NFL, like I said, as soon as I ended the stream, the NFL said, well, I guess it's not worth playing this game. If Kyle isn't going to stream this game, we're not going to play it. And they just called it a night. But the Texans' backup wide receivers are battling for 1 or 2 spots right now. The Texans used a 4-man rotation of wide receivers in the first half. They rested all their starting receivers, Nico Collins, Diggs, Dell, along with backup wide receivers Noah Brown and Robert Woods. The team will likely keep 6 wide receivers, so 1 spot is up for grabs. The team may move on from one of its veteran backups to keep 2 of the young receivers, John Mitchell III and Xavier Hutchinson, who were the 5th and 6th wide receivers on the roster last season, started the game. There was also Ben Skowronek, who served as the 3rd wide receiver yesterday night, while Steven Sims also got significant playing time in the first half. The snap count suggests that Mitchie is the favorite, followed by Hutchinson and Skowronek. Mitchie caught only 1 pass for 4 yards, while Hutchinson recorded 5 catches for 56 yards, and Skowronek tallied 2 catches for 31 yards. So it's possible that Hutchinson and Skowronek closed the gap a little bit tonight. And honestly, Hutchinson, they just drafted him. It seems like it's a little too soon for them to move off from him. Even as the front office, you want to believe in your draft picks. So I think Xavier Hutchinson is definitely going to stay on the team. And this is also a good example of what the wide receiver rotation could look like this season. Houston substituted wide receivers in and out throughout 2023, and they kept the same philosophy in the first half of this game. In the first half, the receivers played 86, 70, 59, and 38% of the snaps, respectively. It was a half where they rarely used 2 tight end sets. It's even possible none of the starters consistently reach 86% of the snaps in the regular season, which is an interesting philosophy because think about that. You got a player playing 86, no receiver playing 86% of the snaps on any given day. So you got 14% of rest per week. It might not sound like much, but it's just like a $5 an hour pay raise, right? It might not be much on the end of the month, but it's a lot at the end of the year. When it comes playoff time, having those guys have significantly less wear and tear throughout the season, that could be a really important thing because we know to make a Super Bowl run, you have to be hot at the right time and you have to stay healthy. This could be part of the philosophy from the Texans. The Texans rest, and they have no shortage of wide receivers. They actually have the luxury to not have to have Diggs out there for an entire game or any of their receivers. The Texans rested Dalton Schultz and backup Brevin Johnson, who reportedly is banged up. This left Quintiano and rookie Cade Stover as the only tight ends on the roster. Of course, Cade Stover just got drafted. He's definitely going to be on the active roster. But this did give us minimal information about the potential tight end position. When healthy, Quintiano, I can't pronounce that guy's name, Quintiano is the current favorite in 2 tight end sets, but it's possible the well-rounded Cade Stover can take over for him on that role on the depth chart. And if I'm going to call this guy Q. If Q's injury is serious, then Stover will see a lot more opportunities immediately, like he did tonight. In some miscellaneous notes, the Bears starting wide receiver DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze all sat out of the game. Tyler Scott is likely the Bears' 4th wide receiver after starting times last year. He played only on the first drive, and then his night ended. Similarly, DeAndre Carter played only the first drive, making him the likely 5th receiver at the moment. And these are 2 teams that have the best receiving corps in the NFL. And speak of the devil, we got our own, yours truly, Chicago Bears country. Bears down. 1 win down, 4 more to go for the Bears, and I finally get to wear. No, absolutely not. The preseason does not count as one of your wins. Don't even try to play that. Guys, tell him in the chat. Tell him that preseason doesn't count. These are not the 5 wins. Come on, you can have 4 of these wins in the preseason. No way. Guys, tell him. Joe Mixon, the Texans' new starting running back, is dealing with a soft tissue injury that kept him out, although he likely would not have played even if he was 100%, so there's no concerns currently for him to miss any of the regular season. And Rick said, I said preseason counts. Guys, tell him it can't just be me. Help me out here. How the hell do you comment on X? I legit don't know. I said it counts, damn it. All right. I mean, it's your deal, right? If you can go to bed at night and you can have peace about this and not feel like you're letting everybody down, then count the preseason. But I'm judging you. Wide receivers Xavier Hutchinson and Steven Sims were the Texans' 2 kick returners to start the game. This is interesting. We got to take a look at the kick returner, the new kickoff rules. And my immediate takeaway is that as abruptive of a change, as drastic of a change, the kickoff rules have been changed to, right? It's a very significant change, probably the most significant change in 30 years since probably 4 or 5 years when they moved that extra point to the 35. And then before that, the next significant change would be taking the goalpost and putting it in the back of the end zone. But this is right up there with those changes. We don't get changes like this. So for how significant the change was, I thought it was pretty standard to what we normally see. They say that there's going to be more opportunities for kickoffs. One thing that's a little bit different is, and I mentioned this during the live stream, if for the last 4 years since the kickoff has been adjusted so they could have fewer returns, the ball would normally go out of the back of the end zone, or it would go so deep that they would just call a fair catch and take a knee, right? And that kind of set it up to where when the ball was kicked off, and then tactically, special teams coach would tell their team, hey, don't kick it in the back of the end zone. They're not going to return it. We want them to return it so we can pin them, 15, 20-yard line. We don't want to start them out at the 25. So kick the ball kind of high so they can catch it at the front of the end zone. What happens is if they are receiving the ball, they have it in their head. Their special teams coach tells them, if you catch the ball, within 3 yards of the front of the end zone, you have my permission to take it out. Okay, so for the last couple of years, if a ball was kicked off to just the front of the end zone, naturally you would see the returner take that ball out of the end zone. Now, with the new kickoff rule, if you do that same kick to the front of the end zone and the returner takes a knee, the ball goes to the 30-yard line, not the 25-yard line. So there's more of an incentive to take a knee in a way, but it's going to take a while this is ingrained in their head. The ball's at the front of the end zone, take it out, try to return it to the house. So it's going to be interesting to see. And there was a couple where a player could have kneed it and he decided to take it out. Old habit, right? And he didn't make it to the 30-yard line. I think the furthest any kick got was the 37-yard line. And most kicks were standard. They were between the 20 and the 30-yard line. Some of them had penalties, so they made it to the 25, but the penalty, they started on the 15. But overall, this doesn't seem like something that's going to drastically change football. It just didn't. Not in this game, at least. It's a small sample size, but so far, I think for how drastic this change was, I thought it almost felt kind of natural. It looks a little different, I will say that, but I don't feel like it's drastically affecting the integrity of football. It just seems crazy, but when you're actually watching it happen, it seems like, okay, I think this will be fine. And this experiment is a 1-year trial, right? So the NFL is going to reevaluate at the end of the year. And we've seen big changes where you could challenge a pass interference after the Saints got away with one. And then the NFL did it for a year. And then at the end of the year, they said, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. It's wasting time. It's too not relative. When it's in the eyes of the beholder, it's too wishy-washy. I can't think of the word right now. So the NFL ended up getting rid of it. I'm not sure if this is going to continue or it's just going to be for 1 year. Largely, it will, I think, depend on what happens during the season. But I think if this kind of return game is what we're going to see throughout the whole season, I think this rule is going to stand for more than just this year. And Bill said it's better on YouTube anyway when Super Chats come back. Hell yeah. So, some table notes. Snaps include all plays, even those that were called back due to penalties. So earlier I mentioned all the different snaps. Carries only counted on designated rushing plays. Quarterback scrambles are not included. But yeah, that was a really good game. And now we're going to move into something that I'm super pumped about. It felt good to actually just sit here and talk about the NFL, a real game that took place. And now we're going to talk about this. We are going to be ranking 6 NFL quarterbacks who got paid this offseason. Who's going to have the biggest year in 2024? There has been a lot of money thrown around the NFL this year. Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, Tua, Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield. And we're gonna talk about it. Okay, the quarterback market is booming right now. Dak Prescott's in line for a big payday because the Cowboys continue to wait. This offseason, these group of players that I just named inked blockbuster deals, and these are all over $50 million a year quarterbacks, right? They're all in the 50 million club. Scouts and coaches have to be wondering the same question we're all wondering: how far does this go? I mean, are quarterbacks getting paid $70 million pretty soon? This is going to be really, really interesting to see. But here's the look at the biggest contracts that were signed this offseason. Trevor Lawrence, 5-year, $275 million, $55 million a year. Jordan Love, 4 years, $220 million, $55 a year, which is interesting because Trevor Lawrence gets an extra year. They only gave Jordan Love a 4-year deal, same amount of money per year. Tua gets a 4-year deal similar to Jordan Love, but he gets $212 million, $53.1 million a year, but incentives can get him to the $55 million a year, things like playoff wins. Jared Goff with the Lions signed a 4-year, $212 million deal, $53 million a year. And Kirk Cousins for the Atlanta Falcons signed a 4-year, $180 million deal, which is $45 million per year. And Baker Mayfield, $33.3 million a year on his 3-year, $100 million contract. Okay. And after reviewing and researching all of these quarterbacks, here's how I would rank them based on their expected impact next year and beyond. Okay. This might seem a little bit crazy, but I think Jared Goff's deal is probably one of the best. Okay. He's the number 1 overall pick in 2016. He captained the 2018 Rams to a Super Bowl appearance. Now he has the Lions on the verge of cementing their status as a full-blown contender in the NFC. He has flourished in Ben Johnson's offense. He's displayed superb accuracy, ball placement, distributing balls to different pass catchers. Yes, they're a bunch of blue chip playmakers all around him, but he still does just such a great job at getting the ball in their hands. Last season, he ranked 7th in the NFL in completion rate, 67.3, and 11th in touchdown to interception ratio. And the year before, he was also ranked in the top 10 in a lot of different stats. The passing game of the Lions is impossible to defend right now. Of course, they have one of the best receivers in the game in Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, and then the two-headed monster in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. The Lions getting this deal done with Jared Goff, in my opinion, routinely chalks up double-digit wins right out of preseason and almost guarantees that we're going to see the Lions in the playoffs. Jared Goff is still only 29 years old. He's not even 30 years old, and all he's done is consistently be good. He looked fantastic for the Lions. He looked totally calm and confident in the playoffs, and he didn't even sign the biggest deal, right? I think there could have been a case to be made that he should be paid like those other quarterbacks, but he wasn't. And there's still skeptics that wonder if he could win in a shootout against an elite quarterback in the playoffs. But Jared Goff, he's a 2-time Pro Bowler. He has Super Bowl experience, but he has yet to crack 300 yards in a single season appearance, and he's thrown more than 1 touchdown pass in just one of his 8 playoff games. The Lions committed top 5 money to a quarterback viewed as a high-end game changer, but if he fails to elevate his performance in January, February, the team might not recoup a full return on their investment. But I'm going to say, look, I don't care about the stats in this case. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. A lot of time when I care about the stats is because I watched it with my own eyeballs and I go, wow, that was awful. What were the stats in that game, right? The Dolphins ran it 3 times. If I'm looking up stats, it's either because something was really awful or something was really, really good. He threw for 500 yards, I think. Let me check. Okay, so I never, after any of the Lions games this postseason, felt the need to take a look at Jared Goff's stats because he just didn't look like a playoff caliber quarterback. Absolutely not. Jared Goff looked comfortable, confident, and amazing in the playoffs, right? He went toe to toe with Baker Mayfield. He had the Lions down 7, or the 49ers down 17 points. I mean, the Lions looked really, really good. And Jared Goff, I don't think, like, for the Lions, it's Super Bowl or bust. I don't think there's any additional pressure on Jared Goff, if that makes sense. There's a pressure on the team, not Jared Goff. But just for the sheer fact that Jared Goff signs a 4-year, $212 million deal, $53 million per year, Tua ended up making more than Jared Goff, only by 0.1 million, but still, Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence are getting more money than Jared Goff. I think it's a great deal. I think it's a fair deal. And I think his winning pedigree is the reason that he's worth it. The number 2 contract, and the quarterback that I think that if you guys are just coming in right now, these are me ranking the 6 quarterbacks who were paid this offseason. At number 2, I got to go with my boy. You're like, who's my... No, not that. My boy, Jordan Love. Jordan Love deserves it, right? I actually posted a short and people were commenting, not worth it, bad deal, all this stuff. No way. There's no chance. Okay, the Packers' surprising season last year, the fact that they reemerged as a title contender, that they went into San Francisco and almost beat them after demolishing the Cowboys, is the reason he gets paid. I said this before the deal got done. I said it the day the deal got done. I said if Jordan Love doesn't beat the Cowboys, he gets tagged and plays on the tag. The fact of the matter is he did beat the Cowboys, and he didn't just beat them, he destroyed them. And he looked like he was the better quarterback in that game. So that changed Jordan Love's kind of the way people view him. And for anybody that's like, oh, that was just one game and the Cowboys choked, what about him going 17 touchdown passes to 1 interception? What about the fact that his team was 3-6 week 9, and he almost took this team to an NFC championship game? I mean, there's absolutely no excuse to not pay Jordan Love after he displayed that he can play at an MVP level. And that's exactly what he did down the stretch last season, from week 11 through the wild card round in the playoffs. The outstanding run confirmed his MVP caliber talent to his teammates and his coaches, eventually prompting Brian Gutekunst to open up the checkbook and give Love an extension. And I said this, Brian's legacy as a general manager was going to be tied to Jordan Love because of what the Packers gave up in the time period that they gave it up, when the Packers were just off of an NFC championship game loss, and they drafted the quarterback. And it's the same way I'm blanking on his name right now, the Packers GM that traded with the Atlanta Falcons, they gave a first-round pick for Brett Favre, right? In the same way, Aaron Rodgers. These are 3 GMs. These are 3 different eras, and these are 3 successful quarterbacks. And when it's all said and done, they'll be considered 3 successful general managers. Because if you have the quarterback right, and it seems like almost everything goes right. Okay. So yeah, Brian Gutekunst opens up the checkbook, gives Love an extension that ties him with Joe Burrow and the next player on the list for the highest paid player in NFL history, given the opportunity to secure stability at a position manned by gold jacket caliber players in Green Bay. I just mentioned Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. And the other thing is, we know that you can really only win a Super Bowl if you have 1 or 2 things: a pretty good quarterback that is a rookie that you haven't paid yet, or an elite quarterback that could win MVP any given season. What we know doesn't work is paying a pretty good quarterback elite money. Okay. Jordan Love, to me, proved that he can be elite. Therefore, he's worth the money. And the Packers were wise to hand him the bag. I will go, I'll say that a million times. Okay. This is someone that looks like a future legend. This guy hasn't even stepped into his identity yet. He is really going to take another leap as a leader, as a voice in the locker room, as not Aaron Rodgers' shadow, right? Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre both had their shadow over this kid. Wait until you see what he can do in another year. Now, what's risky about it is, of course, the chance that he's a one-year wonder. I don't think that is the case, but setting that aside, all of that talent and everything that we saw and him taking the Packers into the postseason, the team paid a top of market price for a quarterback who has an 18-game resume as a starter and a career winning percentage of 500, 9-9. So we had to wait 3 seasons to see him play meaningful action, and in his first 9 games, it was a mixed bag. The Packers had a small sample size with which to determine if Love is a blue-chip quarterback or a streaky gunslinger who heated up at the right time. And this is, of course, just the little devil and the little angel. This, to me, seems like you're looking for doubt, right? You can fake it. It's like the quote in Fever Pitch. He's like, I love baseball. You know why? Because it's not so confusing like life is. Like, you can either hit a curveball or you can't. Okay? And there's a level of quarterback play. You can either make that throw or you can't. And once you see it done, it's not a fluke, right? A Hail Mary is a fluke. A dump off to a running back that ends up going for 80 yards that boosts your stats as a quarterback, fluke. Jordan Love, the type of throws, the awareness, the way he read the defense, and the way he carried his team was not a fluke. Just like CJ Stroud. People saying, CJ Stroud, he might not have the same year he had last year. What are you basing that off of? The fact that they added Stephon Diggs? No. CJ Stroud had the type of season we haven't seen since Mahomes' first season. So no, there's nothing risky about it. And even if CJ Stroud does have somehow a bad season this year, it wouldn't be that bad. It would still be better than 90% of the quarterbacks in the league. Yeah, maybe he doesn't throw for 4,700 yards this year. Okay, maybe he only throws for 45. That's okay too, right? It doesn't mean that he wasn't worth the money. And you got to keep in mind, it's like Mahomes is always going to be the gold standard, but there's not a bunch of Mahomeses out there. It's the same thing with Tua. Like I said, I don't love that they paid him, but it was the only option that they had. It's like we're not going to pay our quarterback unless they're Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Well, there's only 2 of those, right? So these other teams have to make a decision. Do we want to be on a quarterback carousel looking for the next Mahomes? Or do we want to settle down with a guy that gives us a pretty good chance to make the postseason and someone that we feel like if we build a team around him, he could take us to a Super Bowl and win it, like Tua, right? You just get greedy. It's the same reason the Cowboys haven't paid Dak. Dak had an incredible season last year. Whether you like him or you don't, you can't dispute that he didn't play worthy of one of these contracts, right? I understand that there was a meltdown in the postseason, but he's led the Cowboys to 3 straight 12-win seasons. At some point, you had to say, hey, not a lot of people do that. Who's around him? He doesn't have a loaded team. He's not on the 49ers. CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks. I mean, come on. He lost some other players. The Cowboys are probably going to have a dip in production this season because they lost people that I don't believe they replaced. And Dak Prescott is being asked to carry this team, and he probably will. So, yeah, he deserves to get paid. Number 3 on my list, and somebody that I've gone to bat for quite a bit. Me and Rick have gotten into a few arguments about this player, but it's Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence. Why is Trevor Lawrence worth it? And let me hit some of these comments while I take a sip and gather myself here. We got Nash in the chat. What's up, Nash? How are you doing? He just got back from eating. Actually, just had the peppercorn ribeye here, and it was great. He destroyed Jordan Love destroyed the Cowboys and made me very happy. Look at that. That's a Giants fan right there. And NFL top 100 put Mahomes at 4. I don't know who's above me at, but wow, I thought he was a lock for number 1. That makes me want, dude, I've had a problem with this top 100 the whole time. Apparently, it is so, it's not, it makes me so angry. It's not based on who's the best quarterback in the league. If you read into it, it's just strictly based off last season. But why don't they just call it the top 100 players of 2023? It's very misleading that they call it the NFL top 100 if they're going to be glued to 2023 and not look at the overall sample size. Because, of course, there's nobody in the league that can even hold Patrick Mahomes' jockstrap when it comes to what he's done in the league. So if he's not at number 1, I don't want to see the list. And that's coming from a Broncos fan. There's nobody that should be number 1 more than Patrick Mahomes, period, end of story. So him being at number 4, and now think about this, what I just said, they're glued to 2023. Patrick Mahomes and his offense was not cooking last year. They got going at the right time. They won their playoff games and ended up winning the Super Bowl, but it was not the Chiefs' best season, and the offense looked bad. So they move him to 4. See how glued they are to one season? I just don't like that. I don't like the way they're going about that top 100. All right. Now we're moving on to Trevor Lawrence, who is 24 years old, plays in Duval, number 1 overall pick in 2021. And he's been a reliable presence for the Jaguars. I grew up in Jacksonville, and I've seen most of my life that there was just never an answer at quarterback. Blake Bortles, Blaine Gabbert, they had some good years with David Garrard, Byron Leftwich, just not that guy since Mark Brunell. Trevor Lawrence is the solution to that. He's posted back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons with a 46-22 touchdown to interception ratio. 46-22, not bad. Suggesting he could soon join the ranks of the elite. He has a dynamic cast of playmakers around him. Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Gabe Davis. They drafted Brian Thomas Jr. Lawrence should flourish utilizing a connect-the-dots approach that prioritizes efficiency over explosive plays. One thing we saw about Trevor Lawrence is that the production seemed to be very inconsistent last year. He would have games where you would go, oh, damn, that guy is good. Jags could win a Super Bowl with that guy. And then he has games where he's not so good, right? The inconsistency. But I think a lot of that was due to his health last season. And that's when people say you're giving him a pass. I'll give any quarterback that's truly playing injured a pass. What did Joe Burrow look like with his calf injury week 1 through 4, right? Just because we don't understand the injury doesn't mean that there's significant limitations. So we should think about injuries a little differently. The young gunslinger has limitless potential, and it's easy to see why the Jags were willing to gamble on his upside and the fact that they do believe that he can win a Super Bowl. And I would have paid him too. Easily. Not a question about it. Not seriously, not a single doubt. Not even one. The reason it could be risky is turnovers, right? Devil's advocate. There's no denying Lawrence's ability, but his turnover problems are a considerable concern. In 3 pro seasons, he's recorded 60 turnovers, including 21 giveaways last year, 14 interceptions, and 7 fumbles lost. 3rd most in the league. Also, his ball security issues, he had 10 total turnovers over his final 5 games last year, contributed to an epic late season collapse by the Jags, and that kept him out of the postseason after an 8-3 start. Yes, the team's inconsistent running game and leaky pass protection also contributed to these issues, but if the Jags are going to maximize their potential as an offensive juggernaut, Lawrence needs to curb his turnover habits. And I think this is just part of learning and developing and growing, right? He was drafted in 2021. Okay. Played 2021, 22, 23. His first season, honestly, throw it away. Urban Meyer is a joke. Second season, went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, came down to an onside kick, could have won that game, but his players were dropping wide open touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence played a good game, and he won a playoff game, and he won that game by coming back from 27-0 at halftime. Last year, he was injured. Honestly, that's how I sum up his 3 years. But from what I've seen from him 2 years ago, I think Trevor Lawrence, I think the Jags are going to be slept on a lot this year because of last year. So bet the over on their win total. Coming in at number 4 for me. Okay. Number 4 for me. And this is somebody that I've kind of grown to admire. Not admire, that's a little intense. Somebody I've come to appreciate, and that's Baker Mayfield for the Tampa Bay Bucks, somebody that turned into a journeyman quarterback, a former number 1 overall pick. It's really hard to be Baker Mayfield. Remember when he was drafted, he actually remade the Brett Favre moment. He had the phone, he had the jorts, and just kind of remade history. It's hard to go from being on top of a mountain and then all of a sudden you're a journeyman quarterback, and you're on teams where you're not the starter, and you're at the Panthers, and then you're backing up Matthew Stafford, and it's like, what am I supposed to do? What am I doing? And then the Tampa Bay Bucks call you, and they give you a 1-year contract, and they're like, prove it. And you're like, okay, I don't even know at this point if I should move my wife to these, states, because who knows if I'll be here. And what did he do last season? He sparked an offense with confidence, toughness, and his ability to throw darts from the pocket. The Buccaneers had talented wide receivers, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and they deserve their fair share of credit for Baker Mayfield and the success that he's had. But so does Baker Mayfield. The guy won Comeback Player of the Year by operating like a pass-first point guard, hitting his playmakers in stride on fast breaks. And he also tapped into Rachaad White as a runner receiver. The Buccaneers' offensive forces opponents to defend every blade of grass from sideline to sideline, end zone to end zone, in a league ruled by quarterback play. Mayfield gives the Bucs the best opportunity to run it back in the NFC South after winning the division last year. And all I can say is, if you don't like this deal, YouTube Tampa Bay versus Detroit Lions playoffs and watch how Baker Mayfield played in that game. Watch him just demolish the Eagles in the wild card round. Baker Mayfield had something switch in him. From the moment he went into Lambeau in December and became the first quarterback in NFL history to have a perfect QBR rating in Lambeau in December, until his loss against the Lions, Baker Mayfield, something clicked for him. The reason it's risky is his journeyman's game. One of the league's best comeback stories must continue to prove that he has the potential to consistently play at a high level in a tweaked scheme with a new play caller, while the ex-Browns quarterback worked diligently to bounce back from a disappointing run that included stints with the Panthers. Rams, the jury is still out whether the 29-year-old can sustain success over the long haul. And he is the same age as Jared Goff, both 29 years old. Bill said, I got to bounce, hitting the store on the way home. Watch you back later. See you, Bill. Number 5. Tua Tagovailoa. Why is he worth it? Because Tua makes this speedy squad go. He is the person. There's been Dan Orlovsky. A lot of people have said there's a lot of great quarterbacks, but there might be nobody that can operate this offense better than Tua. He has Olympic caliber track team: Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Odell Beckham, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane. I mean, it's insane. These guys, this is the fastest football team in the league, with Tua operating like a Las Vegas card dealer, slinging winning hands at the blackjack table. The Dolphins' RPO-based offense overwhelmed opponents with its sheer speed and explosiveness. He is a pinpoint passer with a quick release, exceptional anticipation. He ranked 5th in completion rate, 69%. Nice. Last season, he even paced the NFL in total passing yards, 4,624. In the 5th-year pros, the perfect QB1 for Mike McDaniel's rhythmic offense. Rhythmic. He also is like 1 in 5 against every winning team. And I heard this on ESPN. They were like, what? 2 of those were against Josh Allen and 3 of them were against Mahomes. It's like, okay, those guys are in the AFC. That's not an excuse. Like, you have to beat those guys. The Dolphins gave up 50 points in one of the games. All right. Okay, I'll give you that one. But there was also multiple games last season, including the Monday Night Football game against the Titans, where Tua had the ball in his hand in the 4th quarter late in the game and couldn't get it done. Multiple games like that. So I think he has been inconsistent at times, and also his injury history is going to be another reason the devil advocate is going to come out on this. Even with Tua's spectacular production under McDaniel, one concern stands out. The Pro Bowler's medical chart is littered with significant injuries, including all the concussions in 22 and lower body injuries at Alabama, with the devastating hip injury prematurely ending his college career. He missed 9 games in 21, in 22 as well, including Miami's loss to Buffalo in the playoffs. That said, he didn't miss a single game last season, improving his mark as a starter to a robust 32-19, highlighting just how important it is that he's able to stay in the lineup. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about the Tua deal. It does seem to be one of the more controversial ones on the list. And then next up on our list, we have at number 6, Cole's Cash, Kirk Cousins. Why is he worth it? Consistency and experience. After watching their super talented offense struggle due to poor quarterback play last season, the Falcons decided to pay Cousins big money to stabilize the position. And you look at the talent that is around Kirk Cousins, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. If Cousins fully recovers from the Achilles injury that ended his season last year, the Falcons definitely have a shot to take the NFC South this season against the Bucs and Baker Mayfield. I think they'll go in a pretty good battle. But Kirk Cousins, 35 years old. His age, his injuries, and the fact that his new QB2 was just drafted out of Washington, that could make it a little weird. But I like the deal. He's a little bit older. All these other guys getting paid 29 years old, 26 years old, 29, 24, 25. This deal is kind of like, hey, you're kind of at the end of the road. Let's finish strong. And there's nothing wrong with that. Peyton Manning had his best years in Denver, 55 touchdown passes in 2013. So, I mean, Kirk Cousins could have that kind of season with the Falcons. I just ranked it here because of his age and the injuries. The Tom Brady effect has led to more quarterbacks playing into their 40s, but it's still rare for a quarterback to continue to play at an elite level nearing the twilight of his career. Though Cousins has shown no signs of falling off, he was actually playing some of his best balls during the season last year. At the week that he was injured, he was on pace for, I think, to lead the NFL in touchdown passes. I'm 99% sure about that. He turns 36 years old this month, and his injury history, along with the Falcons selecting Michael Penix Jr. at number 8, could make his stint in Atlanta a short one. Meaning, if for any reasons Kirk Cousins gets hurt and has to come out of the game, and Michael Penix looks really good, that could be an issue. Despite the team committing $100 million in total guarantees to the veteran, the Falcons have his replacement apparently in the fold, and it's only a matter of time before the promising big arm gunslinger is going to take over as QB1. If the transition happens in 2024 or 25, when they owe $90 million of that guaranteed money to Cousins, the Falcons will have wasted significant resources on a veteran passer that could otherwise have been used to upgrade different parts of the roster, where they could have taken advantage of the fact that they got a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract I don't really understand the philosophy of the Falcons, and the whole thing just seems a little messy. Of course, if the Falcons win, all of this goes away, especially if Kirk Cousins is the leader of this team and that they got a 10-win record. But it just seems a little sloppy. The way it was done, how it was done, the way that they drafted Kirk Cousins' comments during the draft, it was all kind of weird. Okay. So that's where I rank the 6 quarterbacks that were selected or were selected to be paid in 2024. Hopefully you guys enjoyed getting back to football and seeing the first game of the season yesterday. Great game between the Bears and the Texans. I do think that we're going to not really know anything about the Bears until we see Caleb Williams on the field, right? We understand that he's got a really talented squad around him, but who is Caleb Williams? We need to see what that looks like. So follow us on the Only Football Podcast. Like this video if you guys enjoyed it. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of your friends, and I will see you guys on another episode soon. See ya!